Continental Tire Coach's Corner, and that coach is Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. Last game was Saturday, win over Florida 33-17. Next game will be Saturday against the Cincinnati Bearcats. Attack Each Day, Harbaugh's podcast. It debuts today. You can hear it now every Tuesday at podcast1.com, the new Podcast One app and Apple Podcast. It'll feature Jim, Jack, his dad, John, Joni Harbaugh. The whole family is there with the Harbaugh podcast there. So Continental Tire, Coach's Corner with Jim Harbaugh. But we're watching that game with, in fact, I watched a little bit of the re-air last night, and then I saw Spate with the second of his 2 pick sixes there. One was his fault. The other one I didn't think was. And then he had the block punt, so I was going, oh, boy. And, you know, Jim Harbaugh kept his composure on the sideline. And Coach joins us now. Coach, let me get to the important part first. Good morning. We're taking a guess on what you had for breakfast today.
Cornflakes.
Cornflake. Fritzy close. Fritzy had Raisin Bran. I thought you weren't even a breakfast guy. Like you just skipped it and you went right to lunch.
That's the usual. That is the usual. But I went back home and picked up the kids to go to school, and that's what they were having. So I enjoyed a bowl of cornflakes this morning. I
like it. Well, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk to you about. Just find out what you're.
Great talking to you. How you? It's awesome. You're the best in the business.
2% milk on the cornflakes, right?
No, gosh, no.
I don't want to get Urban Meyer upset again. All right, now let me ask you about this podcast. Do you know how to download a podcast? What do you know about a podcast?
That it's similar to a radio show. It's and it can be accessed through the internet.
Whose idea was this?
Learning. That idea, I don't remember who came up with it first, but it was kind of thrown around in the office. Like, you and your dad should do a podcast. You guys, these conversations you two have almost every day would be interesting for people to hear, and it'd be great to document your dad and his stories and his perspectives on things. And then over the summer, Norm Pettis, who established Westwood One and now does Podcast One, approached us with the idea, and we said yes. So that's the short and the long version of how we started doing a podcast.
Well, you know what, I think, your dad, but give people, is there a favorite Jack Harbaugh story?
He's got a good one today that's on the podcast, and I heard you talking about the interception for the touchdown, then we get a block punt. 3 straight things occur, and he likens it to getting punched in the nose, getting sucker punched, and what that feels like. And then, what do you do when that happens and you feel the blood, you get hit across the nose and the blood starts to come out of the nose and go over the upper lip and then around the corners of your mouth, and some of the blood goes in your mouth. You're tasting your own blood at that point, and you see the blood drip down to the ground, and in the dirt it starts to form little globs. People are looking at you. Everybody forms a circle around you, and everybody is aghast with their mouths open, and they're wondering what you're going to do next. And you got 2 options at that point. You can turn and walk away or run away, or you can fight back, and that's his analogy for what happens in a football game, especially to a young team. What do they do when it goes bad, and what's their reaction? I thought, as he said, our team reacted well in that situation. They turned and wheeled and fought back and ended up acquitting themselves very well.
I watched the re-air last night. I tuned in just as Spate threw the next pick six, and then there was the block punt. I was surprised at your composure. And the first thing I thought of as I'm watching your demeanor on the sideline is, I wonder if what you went through as a quarterback when you were in the NFL, does that affect you at all in how you coach quarterbacks? Does it?
Yeah. I've been in those situations where you've been punched in the nose or you're bombing. It's going bad, and you're just out there bombing for everybody to see, and you got a chance. I mean, you got a chance as a player, as a team, as a unit to get the train going in the other direction. I mean, it's got to come to a stop, and you got to turn it on the tracks and get it going the other way. And it's not easy to do, but it's the better way than just capitulating and giving in. So. That I've been there, and I've been there for, enough times to where I know complete humiliation, been humbled, and so you're hardened to it.
Does yelling at a quarterback ever help?
No, I haven't found it to ever. You got it. No, I don't think so.
Because when Ditka would yell at you, did it help at all?
We had a special relationship, so I knew him, and I love Mike Ditka, and I understand. I mean, I understand how important it was to him, and I knew he wanted the players to be successful. I knew he wanted me to be successful. I knew he didn't want me to bomb, and it was coming from a place of, he wanted the team to be successful and be good. I understood that. I understood it because we've been together for 5, 6, 7 years. So I had a great understanding of where he was coming from. But that's it. If you can't, here's another important thing to understand, that whether a football player or even whether you're a quarterback, if you can't take criticism, or you can't take getting yelled at, or even making a mistake and not being able to recover from it, then it's not the position to be playing. I mean, you've got to have thick skin, or you're not gonna survive as a football player or as a quarterback. I mean, I liken it to a golfer. You hit one in the water, and you got to be able to pull another ball out of your pocket, drop it down, and then still be able to shoot for the flag. I mean, that's what a quarterback has to do. He throws an interception or two, one that gets returned for a touchdown, two that gets returned for the touchdown. You've got to be able to come back and still be willing to fit the ball 25 yards downfield to an open receiver, and not have no conscience about what took place just the series before. And then Wilton Speight did that, and that's a talent, because you'll see guys that they just, after something like that happens, they can't even think about throwing a 25, 30-yard throw downfield anymore, because they'll protect against another interception or another bad thing happening, and you realize for those guys you're not in the right position. And so I was proud, happy that Wilton's got that in him. He's wired that way, that he doesn't crumble, he doesn't fall apart. He can stand up against it and come back and keep firing for the flag. And I hope that makes sense. But that's how my experience has taught me, and it shows in Wilton that he's got that ability to do that.
Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast debuts today. Podcast One app and Apple Podcasts, podcastone.com. Talking to Jim Harbaugh, Continental Tire Coach's Corner. Your place kicker, Quinn Nordin, 4 of 6 field goal attempts, 2 from 50 yards or longer. You had a sleepover at his house. If you didn't have the sleepover at his house when you're recruiting him, do you think you would have landed him?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, so you didn't need to do the sleepover?
It was just fun. It was Quinn was a quintessential Michigan guy. He's from Michigan, great family. He's. I thought he was going to come to Michigan, and at that stage. I mean, it was just great to get to know him and his family. the teachers, everybody, that was in Quinn's life. So, 24 hours. I had 24 hours to do a home visit, and wanted to use every minute because I really liked Quinn and thought he was a real talented player, and wanted to make sure that you get to know him and the family as well as you possibly can. So yeah, used every minute of the allotted 24 hours that we by rule could have, and it was it's good not only at that time when you're getting to know a player, but also going forward, because now I think people feel more comfortable. Now Quinn's parents and I mean, we got a great relationship. They feel comfortable calling me because they know me, and I feel comfortable calling them because we know each other better. And that's a big part of it. Being a coach, player. The players know the coach knows the player. I think it's really important.
Yeah, so, but then you're going to have other recruits saying, "Are you going to sleep over? Like, how much do you really want me, Coach?"
Well, I mean, we could keep talking about the sleepover, or we could talk about what's really, really important here is that Quinn Nordin set a record. Michigan's been playing football for 138 years, and for 138 years, this is the first time a kicker has kicked 2 50-yard-plus field goals in one game. I think that's remarkable. I think that's, really, really unbelievably remarkable in his first game kicking field goals that he accomplished that. So that's really cool. And Quinn's wired. He's that kind of guy. We got to know him really well. And this I can say about Quinn is he likes the pressure moments. He visualizes them. He told me when I was recruiting him, that his dream, what he visualized was playing against our biggest rival, being on the right hash, and it was a 43-yard field goal, and he makes the game-winning field goal. And I always thought that was always stood out in my mind the most of anything, any conversation I had with Quinn and his family. That he was thinking about that in high school, and he was thinking about doing that for Michigan. He told me that while we were recruiting him. That stands out the most. And then now, fast forward 2 years in his first ball game, and he makes 4 field goals, 2 of them 50-plus, and sets a record. So got to keep going. Now he's got to do it Now he's got to do it this week, and then the week after, and the week after that. Now that you've done it once, that's great. But now you're doing it the next time, and then the times before don't even matter anymore. So, but right now, sitting here, I'm thrilled for Quinn and that he's a Michigan Wolverine, and that he accomplished that, and I'm very happy for him.
The podcast, Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast with Jim and Jack and John and Joni, and you can get it at podcast1.com and the Podcast One app. Coach, congratulations on the win. Thanks for joining us, and good luck with the podcast.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Okay, take care. That's Jim Harbaugh. Don't want to talk about those silly sleepovers. He wants to talk about his kicker actually kicking a couple of field goals there. I want to talk about the sleepovers. And if I'm being recruited by Harbaugh, then I'm going to go, you sleepover, Coach? Do you really want me?
A kicker gets to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, Fritzy.
It's making me think of the recruitment process of the 4 of us, and who would you most and least be excited to have a sleepover with, too.
Continental Tire, Coach's Corner, the official tire of Major League Soccer. Soccer fans expect peak performance on the pitch, also demand peak performance on the street. That's why Continental has built a tire for what you do. Can't say enough about them. Proud supporter of the Dan Patrick Show. Visit ContinentalTire.com for more.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.